This is what Sacramento's Japantown looked like in 1940. It was a vibrant community located along 3rd, 5th, L, and O Streets. It was Amiko Amy Kamikawa's Wong playground.
I grew up right in Japantown, which is on 4th Street. It was so safe. I used to run around all over. We used to play hide and seek till 9, 10 o'clock.
But Japantown became a ghost town. Amiko remembers the exact moment the first tragedy struck.
My brother was just about to buy a house. He went to see the house on Saturday, and he was going to sign the paper on Monday, and the war started on Sunday. So, of course, we didn't buy a house.
Sunday, December 7th. The attack on Pearl Harbor, a surprise airstrike by the Japanese Navy against the United States Naval Base in Hawaii. The attack had a huge impact, especially for Japanese Americans in the United States. Just 2 months later, Japantown in Sacramento was cleared and residents were forced to go into internment camps. Kiyosato remembers this like it happened yesterday.
25217C was my number. I'll never forget it. It's not on here, but it's tattooed in my brain.
Taken to the internment camp in Poston, Arizona.
I just broke down and cried when that train started to move. And I said, nobody's come to save us, nobody cares.
What Kiyo remembers most is the heat, over 100 degrees, and passing out.
I thought I had died because everybody was laid out on this cot. And I still wonder how many of us didn't wake up.
And no privacy when using the restroom, no stalls, no separation by gender. They wore paper bags over their heads for a sense of privacy. At 100 years old,
I still have PTSD from this, toilet thing.
how had Japantown changed when you got back?
Well, there was no Japantown. In those days, the first generation couldn't buy home property, so their sons or somebody bought properties.
After the war, Japantown in Sacramento was able to return, and the Buddhist church that sectioned off its gym played a big role by giving families a place to stay.
And what made Japantown thrive is the fact that families lived there. Our businesses were there. It was a day and night place.
But then, for the second time, Japantown would be forced out of its own community, unable to own property and make repairs upon returning due to government-sponsored mortgage redlining policies that prohibited loans in racially integrated neighborhoods. Miriam remembers the issues her family faced when they had to move because of the redevelopment.
And we were not allowed in this area.
But all the city saw was a high concentration of people of color, who they considered too risky to invest in. The area was labeled a slum, blighted, which allowed the city to cut revenue to the area. It was bulldozed for the capital redevelopment project. A wrecking ball shattered many cultures, including Japantown, for the Capitol Mall and the area we know today as Doko, and a freeway.
You didn't have the gathering places to go to.
Amiko says it was a loss of independence for her mother because she couldn't go to an English-speaking store by herself.
Well, it was kind of sad because the older folks naturally, they didn't speak English. So naturally, Japantown was perfect. You know, we had grocery stores, we had banks.
I'm here on 10th Street in the heart of relocated Japantown. Hundreds of businesses down to a handful, like Osaka-ya, trying to keep history alive. Historical remnants remain, like the Wakanora sign, even though the restaurant is no longer here. Linda Nakatani and her family have been carrying on the Osaka-ya name since 1963. Originally on the corner of 10th, where you can still see their faded sign, they bought the historic Senator Fish Market.
And Senator Fish retired that year, so my dad said, is it okay if we buy your Senator Fish? And that's how we ended up coming here in 1997.
keeping a Japantown storefront alive and well for over 60 years, passing on the tradition to her sons and even me for the day.
Yeah, that one's really good.
I'm pretty sure 95% that they will take over. It is a lot of work.
Besides the businesses on 10th and W, one of the only remaining buildings from Japantown is the Nisei Barber Shop and Veterans of Foreign Affairs Hall, which makes it the perfect home for the rebuilt Japantown Sacramento group to meet.
All of Japantown was gone, except for the Veterans Hall that we're standing in today.
Kobe and Jamie Katanyagi started the movement to revitalize Sacramento's Japantown. It all started with Jamie researching their family history, then realizing they have nothing to show their children. Kobe's great-grandfather immigrated from Japan and owned a print shop in the heart of Japantown.
Because my generation, we weren't really even taught anything about it. It's not something that they really talked about.
The group consists of prominent Japanese Americans in the community, like Sharon Ito, former ABC10 anchor, and this is one of their monthly strategy meetings. The dream to reclaim the heart of Japantown, the 301 capital, which is currently just a plot of grass. While the group wants to reincarnate Japantown on that land with restaurants and shops, they're also being realistic that it could be purchased and developed.
We're looking at either, a memorial for Japantown, all the way to maybe partnering with the city or with a developer to, bring in a cultural center, museum.
80 years later, we asked the Katanyagis, why push to revitalize now?
I think it's important now for many reasons. The history is almost gone. The survivors and the storytellers are almost gone. And I'm afraid that this history will be lost.
Hello, Malolele. My name is Ana Taukolo. I was born and raised here in Sacramento, California, and I'm full-blooded Tongan. Our island nation is big on valuing God and valuing our Tongan culture as a whole. So we have a saying is Koiotua mo Tonga kohoku tofi'a, which means God and Tonga are my inheritance. We have so many ingrained values like love, respect, family, all oriented in who we are. And it's always the people that keep those values alive, even from our ancestors from way back when to now, whether we're in America or back in the islands. I really believe that it's important to highlight all of the diverse backgrounds that fall under the category of AA and HPI, because it's important to educate others on the different cultures that are out here in America, that are around the globe, that you may not necessarily know about. We're a very small island of a population of about 100,000 people. Although we are small but mighty. We are small but very articulate, educated. We are great learners, adaptable to any type of new environment. And a lot of my Tongan ancestors are able to instill that in generations to come as well. So I think that is something that, although we are small but mighty, for sure.
Hapade Todu Sansu, Guahusi Claire, Tyrone Joker, White, Sumasakadzu, Giza, Nisanan Land or Territory, Sacramento, California, Tamorudzu, I'm Chamorro. So hi everyone, my name's Claire Tyrone Joker White. I'm on Nisanan Territory or Sacramento, California, and I'm Chamorro. There's specifically this word tentuli, which means reciprocity. Chamorros would help each other thatch their roofs. So if this person was building their house, like the neighbors nearby would say, oh, we'll come over. You don't need to pay us or anything like that. We're just gonna help you out and do this because you're our neighbor. And so when the time came for this, other Chamorro who needed their house thatched or the roof thatched, then it was just understood that you just repay the favor, right? And so that value, that reciprocity extends over everything. And it feels really like warm and authentic to me to know that where I came from and my ancestors had this deep appreciation and understanding too.
Pearl Harbor, December the 7th, 1941.
That was a Sunday. I was shopping on K Street, what I heard.
People in the street was yelling. I was born in Walnut Grove, California. Wow, 1922. I'm over 100 years old. Oh, my childhood, when you live in Walnut Grove, you had to go to Oriental school. I couldn't speak English. It was hard for us. Oh, in high school, there's a racial discrimination because you cannot talk to a white person or dance with them. I didn't want to get married because they have match marriages in those days. I said, no, I'm going to find my own husband. So I decided to leave town and find a job in Sacramento. This girlfriend of mine, I remember her name, Leslie Inks, said, let's go join. I said, okay. That's how I joined the Army, 1943. I was 21. Only women volunteer. The men were mostly drafted.
To prepare the women who will serve with our regular Army, the Women's Army Corps recently opened a multi-million-dollar training center.
During World War II, many women participated in supporting the war effort. Nearly 6 million women took on factory jobs using drills and hammers and really trying to help build wartime industry. When the Women's Army Corps was formed, nearly 200,000 women joined the Women's Army Corps. In addition to the Army, all the other branches of the U.S. military also had a version of a women's unit. One of their mottos was, to free a man to fight.
They relieve men for combat duty.
There is a war. You just go. My neighbors, my cousins, they were all, in the service. I was the only Chinese there. I never seen any Asian. I don't know why. Most of them are married. They marry after high school.
During World War II, nearly 12,000 to 15,000 Chinese American men served in the military. We actually don't know exactly how many Chinese American women served because there were very few women who were eligible of a certain age and who were physically fit to be able to serve. So some Asian Americans were in integrated units. In particular, the Chinese American community, because their numbers were so small, they couldn't create a unit just for Chinese American women.
The first thing they do is send me to Des Moines, Iowa for basic training.
Forward march. On up, reap for your...
We march all the time. I remember that we had to learn map reading and how to wear a gas mask. And I remember they gave me a surprise birthday party. They called it day room. I went down to day room. Happy birthday. I was so shocked. From there, he sent me to Georgia. It's called Moody Field. That was a clerk. So I would drive all over the base and deliver those messages. Oh, we played basketball every Friday. I was captain of the basketball team. That was fun. The second year, I moved to New York. They call it Mitchell Field on Long Island. I was put in a station hospital. I get to live in a nurse's quarter. I have my own room, and they made promotion to the corporal. And over there, I work for the 2 nurses, and they want me to take the wounded soldiers that were recovering and take them to all these Broadway shows. We saw Radio City and Harvey, I remember that. There was an Italian girl, took me to her home, and the first time I tasted a pizza. They treat me very nice.
Newsmen rush the president's report to a waiting world. And through the early evening, Tuesday, August 14th, the fateful news is flashed.
June 45, war was over. Everybody's so happy because we can all go home. I was 23. I got back in July.
Particularly women of color who had enlisted in the Women's Army Corps, many of them for the very first time, they didn't have a segregated American society to have to survive in. If you perform and you do well, you will be promoted. Women finally could participate. They could leave the home and join the US military, support the war effort, find social mobility.
I like it very much because I get to travel, I get to meet new friends. It's not like we were discriminated down in Walnut Grove. That's my summer uniform,
It's so important for us to recognize the contributions of Asian American women during World War II, in large part because Asian American women's history and voices are often not the center of the story. We have a nation that has always been diverse.
At the time when I first went in, I lived in the barracks. We play together, we eat together. To me, that was nice. Oh, because they accepted me. I am one of them. I wasn't afraid to join because I just thought it would be an adventure.
My name is Jelly Pascual. I am from Manila, Philippines. I live in Sacramento, California now, and I am Filipino. We have a very strong sense of community. We have this word called kapwa, which is a sense of shared self. From the Philippines, even coming to here, I was able to experience that. It didn't matter where I was, if they knew I was Filipino, they kind of call you like, oh, kababayan, and then start kind of sharing experiences and talking to you as if we've known each other for a while, and that's what I love about being Filipino. I think middle school I came here, I was in 5th grade. I was eating Filipino food and people were kind of like not vibing with those foods, so I kind of like had to hide certain parts of me, and as an adult, I kind of took that realization that I've internalized those into my art, which is filmmaking. Growing up, I didn't see a lot of Filipinos or even women in film at all. I was hesitant because I was like, okay, there's no one out there that looks like me. Is this even possible? How is this gonna work? Thankfully, I had like a couple mentors that helped me here and there and then just kind of observe. But it is still important to see someone out there doing what you want that looks like you and have similar experiences, because that way you can relate and then it kind of empowers you and inspires you to know that this is possible.
Hello, my name is Kellen Lohr. I'm a filmmaker based out of Sacramento, born and raised, and I'm Hmong American. Growing up Hmong American too, my parents, they were entrepreneurs as well too. You know, they've been farmers growing up back in Laos and in Thailand, and one time my dad was actually a butcher, you know, selling pigs in the refugee camps. I think for me, being their child, I think I've inherited that entrepreneurial spirit into my work and into being a business owner too. I think that spirit really lives on within me, and I really carry that proudly. Growing up in a Hmong household and living in American society, I think for me it created an opportunity for me to explore who I am and redefine what it means to be Hmong American. Because sometimes for me, I don't feel Hmong enough, but at the same time, I don't feel American enough. AAPI Heritage Month to me, I feel like it's a month to recognize the diversity within the Asian American, or just the Asian umbrella. There's so many of us, it's a good month to sit down and just reflect on who we are and just remember who we are as well.
Yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
There had been a friction well before World War II.
The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, President Franklin Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, often referred to as the Japanese Relocation Act.
They couldn't figure out who was loyal to Japan, and if you looked like the enemy, you were suspect.
In a matter of months, more than 120,000 Japanese Americans were forcibly removed from their homes and bused to one of 10 different internment camps built in the western United States.
I would have dreams, and I had dreams into my adulthood.
One of those internment camps was Manzanar in southeastern California.
It just brings back all these strange emotions.
On land that was raw, untamed, but full of opportunity. Here they would build schools, educate their children, reclaim the desert.
Rooms were basically 20 by 25. You had three things. You had a cot for each person, a stove, and a light bulb. That's it.
The federal government told the Japanese that the internment camps were for their own safety and kept them there for over 3 years.
For me, even as a 7-year-old kid, camp was to me barbed wire and guard towers.
A lot of the people who were incarcerated at Manzanar were...
Every year, members of the Florin chapter of the Japanese American Citizens League make a pilgrimage from Sacramento to Manzanar National Historic Site, a dusty, wind-beaten plot of land just outside of Death Valley.
It was a trip that turned into a pilgrimage.
Few internment camps are as well preserved as Manzanar. That's why Stanley Umeda makes his pilgrimage here instead of Jerome, Arkansas, where he and his family were incarcerated. This is his 15th visit.
I recall this place more as a place of honor than of disgrace, because this is where we survived.
We are setting a standard for the rest of the world in the treatment of people who may have loyalties to an enemy nation.
Despite the propaganda put out by the federal government, survival here was hard, and conditions were not good.
Oh yeah, right from the beginning, it was hell for them. First, not knowing exactly why, especially the Issei, since they couldn't speak English. There's Dad, George Kiyoshi, Dorothy Kazue Yamamoto, Georgette, there's Georgette's name.
Gary Yamamoto's parents grew up farming in the Sacramento Valley. Before meeting, they were both forced to abandon their homes and move here.
They were just, overwhelmed when they had to pack up everything in 48 hours to carry as much as you could.
Privacy at Manzanar was basically non-existent. Public toilets had no walls, the makeshift shelters had no partitions, and everybody was exposed to the elements. But despite the conditions, Gary's parents found love.
This is where they met, this is where they fell in love, and this is where they got married.
This is Gary's first trip to Manzanar. His mother and father spoke very little about their experience, but he does remember stories of their wedding night.
Their honeymoon was where the rest of the family kind of moved over to one of the other family's barracks temporarily so that my mother and father could have some privacy on their wedding night.
This was put on the health and care of these American children of Japanese descent.
The children who were sent to internment camps are some of the only incarcerated living people today. In the 1940s, the federal government's propaganda painted a rosy picture of their treatment inside these camps. But throughout her childhood, Christine had nightmares from the ill treatment she received.
But essentially the dream was being placed in a panel truck without windows. They slam the door, it's black and screaming. That's my dream.
The nightmare that Christine had comes from her memory of catching pneumonia and being forced to recover in a hospital alone. After that recovery, Christine and her family were relocated to 2 different camps, Tulare, California, and Topaz, Utah. Like many children in these internment camps, trauma followed Christine, but she feels the need to visit these internment camps so she can share her story.
For a teenager, you can imagine that privacy was the biggest issue. I think, so what? This happened to us, but what is the lesson to be learned? In 42, we didn't have a voice. We didn't have political leaders. No one supported us. They didn't know us. And so the thing that we want to say is, we have a voice now. We need to stand up, speak out for ourselves and for others.
Here today to right a grave wrong. We must recognize that the internment of Japanese Americans was just that, a mistake.
It would take more than 40 years for the federal government to admit they were wrong. In 1988, President Reagan signed a bill giving surviving members of the internment camps reparations of $20,000.
You know, they have never apologized for anything. This is the first apology, and that meant so much to get that letter of apology.
The unthinkable happened today. The World Trade Center, both towers, gone.
Just 13 years after President Reagan's apology, America almost made the same mistake again.
Preventative campaign of arrest and detection of lawbreakers. America has grown stronger and safer.
Our country has not really learned, because during 9/11, they were already considering rounding up Muslims.
Manzanar National Historic Site is here for the people to remember.
Yeah, I'm going to have such a much deeper appreciation for the way my ancestors withstood this.
A site to remember the wrongs that the federal government committed towards Japanese living in America.
Those of us who have survived these camps must share in order so that it will not happen again.
From Manzanar National Historic Site, I'm John Bartel.
Hello, my name is Linda Lui. I am from Vietnam. I work as a NP at Kaiser Permanente, also the president of SCIFA, and I am Chinese Vietnamese. I left Vietnam during the fall of Saigon. So after 1975, we have to pack everything and just leave because of the war. So move over to China, and then moved to Hong Kong, and then came to the US in the 1980. There is a very common misconception that Asian is like monolithic, although we hold a lot of common traits like respecting the authority, respecting our elder, strong family, strong tie to the community. There is quite a vast differences in our belief, our culture, many different languages. The celebration. So we have a lot. In our culture, we have a lot of that. So we start the year out with the Chinese New Year. We have the Qingming Festival, which is a tomb sweeping festival. Coming up is the Dragon Boat Festival. We have August Moon Festival. So all those activities or festivals are celebrated with music, celebrated with very colorful decoration, and of course, celebrated with food.
Hi, my name is Mohasid Mon. I go by Mo. I was born in a refugee camp in Thailand, and I am Cambodian American. When I was younger, yeah, I did feel different. And in fact, I felt different from my own community, you know, Cambodian Americans and refugees in general, because I didn't actually learn the language. My parents' journey here was to give us a better life. And so English was just like something my dad just wanted me to focus on. I realize and view things a lot differently as an adult. This is my connection. Being Cambodian American is my connection to my past, and especially my mom and dad. There's a lot of like maybe misconceptions to Cambodian food as being maybe weird or not delicious. And you know, yes, there are dishes that highlight spiders and bugs, but you know, these dishes were out of necessity. This is all stemming because of the war in Cambodia and starvation. And if you're ordering like a single dish for your meal, you're kind of doing it wrong already. Like, you have to order a lot of dishes. You have to get something savory, salty, sour, a soup, a stir fry, fish, chicken, and you have to take a bite of everything. That's like the proper way to enjoy the Cambodian flavors. You have to balance the meal and not just a single dish.
It's home, too, for some 500,000 refugees who fled to the big city to escape communist terror and the bombs and bullets from both sides.
During the fall of Vietnam, my dad had organized a boat, so a total of 90 people on a tiny little boat. Boat was, just lingering in the sea. Finally, the Thailand rescuer, they came out and saw the little boat, so they pulled us on board. My mom, at the time, she was very sick, so we were a priority. We became one of the very first Asian family to go to the United States. We came to Sacramento in 1985. My grandma, she had a friend here in Sacramento. That was the only friend in the United States that we knew of, so that's why we end up here in Sacramento. My dad opened the restaurant in 1991. That's when I was in 11th grade, so I would go to school and usually come here after school and work and help my parents.
During the late 1970s, early 80s, there's a wave of immigrants coming from Vietnam. They fled the country due to the fall of Saigon in 1975. A lot of the Vietnamese immigrants found the opportunities in California. When they found Sacramento, which they are attracted by the low housing costs, a lot of them start relocating to Sacramento in the late 80s. The Little Saigon designation is a 2-mile stretch from Fruit Ridge Road all the way to Florin Road. There was businesses that started to pop up, and so for the south side, we have SF Supermarket. We also have the Hương Lang sandwiches, and then on the south side, we have VinFast Supermarket. So as business started to grow, more API immigrants started to gather and created an enclave community.
Now, remember when you were little, deliver all the veggie for me?
Yes, I do. I remember many years ago when we had to carry the turnip. The first day when we landed in United States of America, March 6, 1981, it was the day that we came to Sacramento. Due to there was lack of work and also poverty, we had to leave Vietnam after the fall of Saigon. When we first arrived in America, the most difficult part is communication. Therefore, my parents, they can't get a job. They decided to do what they know best, and which is growing vegetables. After we were done with the farming, my dad one day decided that maybe we should start a restaurant because growing vegetable is too strenuous for the children. Our first restaurant was opened 1990. So all this 42 years of experience is all on this little small niche of Little Saigon.
Vietnamese food are so flavorful and very healthy.
A lot of vegetables are involved in Vietnamese cuisine. The spring roll is more like a salad roll with shrimp and meat filling and lots of vegetable.
We believe that herbs, the mint, the basil, it can help cure.
Pho has become a traditional cure for people. So what makes the pho unique is in the broth. In our broth, we use a lot of bone marrow, meat, and we stew them overnight.
Banh mi is equivalent to American hamburger.
When I see other culture coming to eat our food, we feel that some kind of success that we have been able to do. What we want to do is introduce our culture, our food.
This is a very proud neighborhood, especially because of the rich history of the Southeast Asian community, and especially the Vietnamese community.
The name Little Saigon, the idea started December of 2009. Former council member Kevin McCarty, he recognized a lot of these Asian immigrant businesses has contributed so much to the area of Stockton Boulevard. So through the brainstorming session, we came up with a rescue mission. It's an acronym that stands for Revitalization, economic development, safety and security, community building, unity, and education. And the Little Saigon Committee did the outreach for the Little Saigon name the January 2010.
With the Little Saigon destination, we hope that it will become a unique destination for visitors locally and internationally.
February 2nd, 2010 was the date that the designation would go to council members for a vote. Everyone in the community to attend this historic moment for us. We remember that night. It was a celebration, and we got the unanimous vote as of February 10th, 2010. So we got our both resolutions. Those that comes here are usually the South Vietnamese, migrates to America. So when they left Saigon, it is like leaving their heart behind. Little Saigon in America, we're trying to bring that back to them. While they're in a different country, in a different land, they can still feel the sense of Saigon that they lost.
I do feel that the second generation do have a responsibility to sustain what their parent had tried so hard. They want to make sure their children succeed. They sacrifice their life to give us better opportunity by coming to America.
I thought you were in the middle of the night making cheese.
This restaurant is my parents' legacy, and I don't want it to fail. If it fails, at least I can say I tried. I grew up here. I grew up in Little Saigon. This is where I consider my home. My community exists here, and my bubble of happiness is on Little Saigon. And the people that is in the community supports our business, support my family.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay,
Little Saigon, for me, is kind of like the root. My dad started the business here, and I now survive on what my dad passed down to me.
Assalamu alaikum and Pakhair Raghli. My name is Mujda Feroz. I was born in Afghanistan. I moved to the US when I was 3 years old, and I am Afghan. So one of the things that's so special about Afghans that you'll find in history books and you'll hear globally is how hospitable Afghans are known to be. It's something that we take pride in and something that's very important to us. In fact, there won't come a time where you'll walk into an Afghan house where it's not insisted that you at least have a cup of tea before you leave. So unfortunately, whether it's the media or just people not having exposure to Afghans, there's a big misrepresentation where people identify Afghans as coming from this war-torn country and coming from hardship, and they're so helpless, and that's what they think defines Afghans. And although that is where a lot of us started, that could not be farther from that where our story ends. This American culture is a melting pot of different cultures, and it's really important for us to be able to bring that Afghan culture and fuse that right into, whether it's sharing them a dish of mantu, which is one of our most delicious dishes, or giving them an Afghan dress for them to wear with us at one of our holidays.
My name is Sensei Turn. I was born in Sacramento, California, and I'm Yumian American. Yumian people are indigenous Chinese people, but we also are Southeast Asian people just because of our history of all the countries that we've been through. So we have, in a sense, like a multi-ethnic identity while we still hold on to our core indigenous identity. One thing that I love about being Yumian American is that we all have the same immigration story. It spans across at least 4 different countries. And it's a story that's told in our last names. We have 12 clan names, which are also our last names. And there's a prefix in those names that was given to us by the Thai government. And it reminds us of the story that our ancestors were from China, living as indigenous people, and they ended up migrating to Southeast Asia. And from there, they were affected by the Vietnam War, where they had to congregate into Thailand in these refugee camps. And that was about 50 years ago, right before they flew across the ocean into the United States. A lot of people think that Mian people are just Hmong people, but we're completely different cultures. We have different languages. We did come from the same area, but in America, Hmong people are about 6 times bigger than Mian people, so it's a little bit difficult to get out of that shadow. Being Yumian American means being part of a small community where we have to work together to keep our culture alive.
In Molly Chow's kitchen, you'll find a lot of cooking.
Stir fry. You stir fry.
We stir fry this before you do anything.
And a lot of conversation with Elizabeth Shu Wong. These two say the pandemic brought them together to cook on a weekly basis. And in this house, Molly is known as Auntie Molly.
She calls me Auntie Molly because in Chinese, it's very respectful for the elders.
On the menu today,
garlic,
jai.
The jai, like we showed you earlier, has 13 ingredients.
It's a traditional vegetarian Chinese dish that's usually eaten during the first day of the Lunar New Year, with the hope of bringing luck. Some of the ingredients in their recipe.
We have fujuk, tofu, lotus root, mogi. Mogi is fungus. Isn't it called fungus?
Yes.
Or cloud air.
And their most important ingredient,
slice.
Fresh water chestnuts.
Slice or cut the water chestnuts, a lot of work. But since she made it in the jai, I love it.
Because jai can take hours to make, today's meal is a shortened version. But their love and enjoyment for jai is the reason these two try to make the dish every year, to keep that Chinese tradition alive.
I make it for the family, and my child family and my Fong family. It's fun cooking it. I enjoy making jai.
That's the reason why they decided to submit their jai recipe to the ACC Community Cookbook, because all families have their own stories and recipes of how their dish came to be. This cookbook will be a place for those families to share it with the community. The book will also include soups, noodles, and dumplings, just to name a few.
It's how we feel when we actually eat it, and oh yeah, we enjoy it.
It's fun.
The relationships and stories with each dish is what David Suhu says is the reason why he wanted to be a part in helping to put this cookbook together with ACC Senior Services.
Every ethnic group should do a community cookbook, because that is like sharing some of the best parts of the culture.
A chef himself, David says at a young age he could feel the power of food and how it would bring people together.
People who cook, they're practitioners of culture. So I can remember even as a child going in school, other kids loved me because I would bring an egg roll to school. And so we would trade food.
With a book titled The Foods We Share, The Stories We Tell, David is hoping it'll bring together not only the AAPI communities, but allow people to experience and learn something new. On top of that, the book is meant to preserve family recipes to keep the tradition moving forward.
One book, you can make Vietnamese sandwiches, you can make rice noodle pad thai from the Thai, you can make the pot stickers, dumplings, and get it all in one cookbook, the classic chow meins, and a lot of actually great recipes that reflect the traditional Chinese medicine or culture.
All of this with the ultimate goal of bringing together community, just like Elizabeth and Auntie Molly.
I get emotional. It's a tradition.
Yeah, yes, I love cooking all these years, and I'm glad to share it with you.
No one else better than you to share it with.
Hi, my name is Venu Acharya. I'm a resident of Folsom, California since last 26 years. I'm an Indian American and I work for the state of California. India is a birthplace of many Eastern religions of the world. You know, many of the major religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, All those are originated in Indian subcontinent. Basically, all these religions started, based on the Vedic scriptures. There is a sentence in the Vedic scriptures which is written in Sanskrit, which says Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means that the whole world is one family. That is the culture where I came from. So that's why, I always think that everybody is same. So we should help each other. People think about India, they think about many places of mistakes, but it is not like that. Many people have not gone to India, so it's very hard to think. So you can imagine a whole continent of Europe. You see so many different languages, so many different cultures. So within Indian subcontinent, it is something like that. Every 100 miles if you go, you will see a different language, different culture, different food, so different art. So that is the speciality of India.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Peace and blessings to you all. My name is Yaqub Khan. I'm born in Northern California and my parents are from Pakistan and I'm of Pakistani descent. When someone asks me where I'm from, even though I was born in America, I always say I'm Pakistani. And that was instilled in me by my parents. I have 7 siblings, and growing up, we played together, we worked together, we ate together, we did everything together. And my father instilled that in us to always stay together with family. What's unique to Pakistan, it's a very diverse culture. The culture is influenced by Asian Americans, Afghani culture, by Persian culture, by Indian culture, and all these cultures have different languages and different cuisine. One thing that's common in all of these cultures is hospitality. The Pakistani people are very hospitable. If you ever watch food bloggers on YouTube, and when they tour the country and tour the world, they will all say about Pakistani is the restaurant people are so kind to them and so hospitable to them. They never charge them. Even though the people want to pay, the people of Pakistan will not take money from a guest. They're just that hospitable.
On a 15-acre vineyard in Lodi, 120 years of tradition is in bloom. While this plot of land hasn't always been Makami vineyards, it's always been grapes.
For me, it's really about honoring a tradition.
Third-generation Japanese-American Jason Makami is continuing the legacy of his grandfather, Teruchi Makami, who immigrated from Japan to Lodi in 1896 at 13 years old.
So Mikami actually is composed of 2 Japanese characters. The first syllable, mi, means 3, and kami, in this case, means up.
Farming grapes in the areas we know today as Acampo, Woodbridge, Stockton, until 1942. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor military base in Hawaii, Japanese Americans on the West Coast were forced into internment camps.
The Japanese Americans all had to effectively give up whatever property they owned to be incarcerated in these camps. And in my father's case, my father and grandfather, they were moved from Lodi to Rower, Arkansas.
This is his father, Jim, at the Rower, Arkansas internment camp in 1942 to 1945. His mother, at the time, facing another first in U.S. history. She was living in Hiroshima, Japan. Its name many know because it was the city where America dropped its first atomic bomb.
And so, unfortunately, she was an atomic bomb survivor. She had a brother who passed away immediately during the atomic bomb. He was effectively evaporated when the bomb dropped. And then my mom also suffered burn injuries.
As we walk the vineyard, Jason recounts the terrible history that had so much impact on his family. When the Makamis returned from the internment camp to Lodi, things were not the same.
Because of various laws at the time, they did not own that property. So they were effectively renting out property.
Returning to Lodi with just a train ticket in their hands and whatever they could carry, the Makami men returned to the only work they've ever known: growing grapes.
Whether you call it the immigrant spirit or you call it, the American way, my grandfather and father, they just continue to work as, as workers, as farm workers. They worked different properties and eventually saved enough to purchase the initial property in the 50s.
In the 1950s, the McComies were finally able to purchase land in Lodi. In 1963, they expanded to where Jason stands today as a result of his father's hard work, 15 acres in Lodi off West Sargent Road.
There's a phrase in Japanese or Japanese American, it's called shikataganai or shoganai. It basically means you have to sort of bear with it.
After his father's passing, Jason took McCamey on a new path. In 2005, they began making wine.
My mom always instilled in me that, this is our family land, and so, don't think about selling it.
He says it's important to honor traditions so many in his generation have abandoned.
There are a lot of Japanese American families farming in this area, but my generation, post-college, tended to move either to the Bay Area or other locations and to move out of farming.
Winemaking is not an industry many minorities have ventured into. Even Jason admits it was a risk, but one he wanted to take.
To be able to see other folks trying to honor their legacies or honor their history is really nice to see.
But Jason feels the McCamey story speaks to the immigration policies and inequities polarizing our country today.
From a Japanese American perspective, a lot of times what I think about is it's unfortunate that with the immigration policies these days, there's a lot of negative connotations associated with Mexican Americans, etc. And, their story today is no different than my father's story, 50 years ago, in terms of whether it be either forms of racism or having stereotypes put upon you. And so it's really important for us to not relive that history of treating, Mexican Americans the way the Japanese Americans were, during World War II. Same thing for the Muslim Americans as well.
For McCamey, keeping his family story alive is very important.
To think about what my grandfather had to do to come as a 13-year-old or 14-year-old boy to the United States back in 1896, to what my father had to endure during World War II, and now being able to actually carry on their tradition of grape growing and now producing wines.
What keeps him going today and doing this hard work is his family.
I think they would be very proud. They would be very happy that I'm continuing to still own and operate the property and try and produce something under our family name.
A story that spans 120 years and 3 generations of wine growing.
It really means a lot to be able to pass that along to my daughter.